Stu, I have a question for you, buddy.
Yes.
Have we ever had on the same? So I know we've had my wife Erica on a podcast, but I don't think it counts that. Like it wasn't an interview with me and Erica; it was you and I interviewing Erica.
Yep.
I don't know if you and I have interviewed a husband and wife on the same episode on the same show before. But what I find is fascinating is that we have a husband and wife couple here, and then you're my work wife. So it's almost like two couples
Two couples.
interviewing, just having a conversation, which I think is really sweet.
Uh, yeah. I mean, I don't have anything really funny to say to that. What I thought was interesting was how we were just talking so much crap about our kids right before we hit the record button. Now, and I was thinking through this, David and Morgan, do you guys ever have these moments where like you wake up in the morning and it's wintertime and like it's snowing and you get that like text message from your school saying that school's canceled and then you're like, oh,
Yes. Yes.
dang it.
Yes. A few times this year. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like
It's
I've had that moment recently and I'm like, I'm a terrible dad. Like, why should I be angry that my kids get to stay home with me and like I get to
right.
like be dad and play? Like, I'm just like, this ruins my entire day.
It does put you back a little bit.
I
Yeah,
shouldn't
sets you
feel
back.
I shouldn't feel that way as a parent, but sometimes I do.
Totally natural. Totally natural
Okay,
feeling.
good. All right, this
Yeah, we're with you.
Yeah,
you're making me
yeah,
feel
yeah.
better about
Good.
myself.
yeah.
Thank you.
That's sweet. I think that and I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys making Stu feel better about his terrible fatherhood. I know my kids. We had a foot of snow, and I was like, "Oh, sweet! I get to cancel all the meetings I have, and my productivity's out the door, which is great.
Yep.
Where I'm going to go out and just build castles and do fun stuff all day because
Yes.
I'm a great dad."
Yep.
And,
Yep.
and I had no angst over canceling every single meeting I had last Friday because I knew I was just going to be able to be a good dad the entire day, Stu. So that was my that was my.
So you're saying that I'm just a terrible dad and you're like a really,
I
really good
mean,
dad?
I'm not saying that. You said it. To be clear, right? Like that's not a David quote. That was a Stu quote.
Oh, I
Gotcha.
love it.
David and Morgan, welcome to the Kinetic Man podcast. We're glad to have you. We're going to talk about parenting failures today.
Yes.
You guys are up next. Give us your biggest failure that you've had as parents. Kidding. I'm just joking. But if you could, please give us a little bit of background to our audience and listeners who you are.
Yeah. Go.
I'll let you start.
Yeah. I'm Dave. This is Morgan. We're a couple that live in upstate New York. Prior to living in New York, I was active duty Air Force. I was stationed in Phoenix,
I'm sorry.
Arizona.
I'm sorry. to hear this.
And that's where we met. When I was active duty. State Police, New York State Police brought us back to New York. Currently, I'm a New York State Police investigator, and I work in a counterterrorism role. So my role currently is we handle anything outside New York City, and our sole role is to prevent another 9/11 from happening, whether the public realizes that we exist or not. But that's our role to make sure that residents in New York are safe.
Hey,
So-
David, this is one aside, and then I want to get
Mhm.
back into it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think this is something that's really interesting to me. And it's something that I've completely come full circle on recently. Do you find great fulfillment in your job and in your W-2? And do you desire that real estate be a mechanism that takes you from something if you have a lot of pride and joy and passion? And the reason I ask this, I think we have so many. I was in a different place where I felt the real estate path was a path for me to stop doing something.
Mhm.
And what I didn't do is I didn't measure how much I loved doing the something, whatever that something was. And so I've come full circle and like, yeah, I love real estate. We're going to continue to do it. But like I have pursued another job that gives me purpose, and I never see stopping that. So I was just
Yep.
curious on that perspective because your job is one that it's uniform, a lot of meaning, a lot of purpose. And I don't want to put words in your mouth. Maybe you're like,
No,
dude, I can't
no.
wait to quit this job.
No, that's a good question. I think you both could say the same thing. You get out of the military, you have that purpose in the military, and you need to find something else to fulfill that. For me, it took me to state police. I think the best job, and I think the best job within New York State Police is being a trooper. So out of the academy, you're a trooper on the road, you're stopping vehicles, you're making narcotics arrests, you name it. I think that is the best job that we have. I don't have that anymore. Um, I like what I do. I think there's a lot of obviously good in it to protect the citizens of New York State. Do I love it? No. Um, it's enjoyable. It gets me through my week. It's, a good job for what I do. But once Morgan and I started real estate in 2020, it's been phenomenal. It's something that I could do every single day. And, I joke around with Morgan that I'd love to be Warren Buffett and 90 plus years old, still doing real estate. I genuinely actually enjoy it every single day. State police,
That's awesome.
just like the military, and I think it's honestly too bad to say that there's a lot of politics involved. And I think just like the military, just like state police, I think that can be unfortunately a downfall. I think the New York State Police in general does a phenomenal job compared to a lot of law enforcement agencies. I think they're one of the best agencies in the country. Um, could every agency and military in general always better themselves? Yeah. But do they always do it because of politics and everything at top? No, not at all. Um,
I
what we
appreciate
felt,
that. Thank you for that
yeah.
that context. I think it's
Yeah.
important. But anyways, continue, please. Thank you so much.
And just, what we fell into and what we do and having our kids starting to get integrated into it all, I think that's really provided the fulfillment in terms of what we're doing. I mean, every single morning, every single day, we're learning more and we're, achieving more and we're shooting towards our goals. And I think that is something that can be infinite. Whereas military, state police, you hit a roadblock at certain points and you can't always excel to where you want to be.
Morgan, how about you? What's give us a little bit of background about what you do and who you are?
Yeah, so I originally went to school and grad school to be an educator, and I worked as a teacher for a long time. That's how I met Dave. I actually graduated from grad school, packed my bags, moved to Phoenix, Arizona, by myself. There were no jobs in New York State at the time, so it was one of those scary moments when I'm in my early 20s and I just spent all this time in school and grad school, and I have bills to pay. And so, yeah, so I moved to Arizona. I worked in the inner city for a few years, met Dave, and I was honestly happy to go home back to New York. I missed my family. He was actually originally from Rhode Island, so when we met, we had no idea that our hometowns were 4 hours apart, which was really cool. So we went back to New York. He went into the academy. I continued to teach here right up until 2017 when we had our son Theo. And then I left the career and I became a stay-at-home mom at that point. It just financially made sense. And I always knew that I had a little bit more to offer to our future kids. And I was happy to make that change. And I've been doing that ever since.
So you're the one that has to actually stay home and deal with all those
I
rugrats
do.
that
Yes, yes.
when it's snowing, they cancel school.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's me. I am the force of our home, and I make sure everything is well oiled, well oiled engine here. And the day to day is crazy. I have never worked harder in my entire life, but I wouldn't change it for anything. It's been wonderful for our kids and our family, our business, and yeah, I absolutely love what I do every single day.
Yeah, and I'd like to say I'm on that kind of that token that, military, state police, whatever, all that, and even the real estate. I don't think, the amount of work that stay-at-home mom does, or just when I'm off with the children, it's insane. And just the amount that she's able to handle at home and keep her house from burning down is great. And I think that allows us to do what we're doing, or that allows me to be successful within state police. And I think that's a huge, huge factor with, doing what we're doing.
I love
But
it,
it's a
man.
phase too, right? I mean, it's going to be short lived. And
Yes,
we were talking
absolutely.
about it before we hit record, and I was just like,
Yes.
man, I can't believe like I'm gonna have a high schooler next year, and how quick it goes. And I tell my wife, in case she's listening, I will happily be a sugar mama recipient,
Yeah.
like the dude that married up, and so I actually aspire just to be a stay-at-home dad, and my wife, I would happily do that. So Erica, if you're listening, and to all our children, Maya, Jacob, Noah, And to Collins and Wells, we love you dearly, even though we talk a lot of trash on you guys. So
Perfect.
Well, let's continue the story. So you guys are in New York, stay-at-home mom, full-time police, and what happens from there?
So from the academy, I was stationed in the Adirondacks. So that's upstate New York, and I was stationed in a town called Tupper Lake. So Tupper Lake, we do our normal patrol functions, stopping vehicles, looking for DWIs, narcotics, you name it, and handling calls for service. So while we were up there, I was at a local festival, and one of the other troopers came up to me after I was introduced to an older gentleman, and they said, "Did you know who you were just talking to?" I said, "No, just nice older guy." And they said, "No, he's actually from LA and he vacations up here in the Adirondacks, and he has a lot of investments all throughout the United States. And he's just a very, very, you wouldn't know from meeting him, just a very friendly, nice person." So while I was stationed up there, ran into him numerous times, and he would just pull up beside me while I'm on patrol, and just we'd shoot the breeze for 20, 30 minutes and just about everything under the sun. And he really, really, really instilled upon us, just from his story, that you have one life to live. You might as well try something new. And we'd always thought about investing in real estate. And he really was that kind of catalyst to push us forward. And he said, just try it. What's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is it doesn't work out, sell the property, and then just continue on with life. And so in 2020, we kind of took that leap, and we found our first property in Florida.
Why Florida? You're in New York, and that's
Absolutely.
pretty far away from where you're
S-
living.
Yeah,
s-
not only was it a totally different state and it was far away from where we live. I mean, everybody knows Florida as being a beautiful state, sunshine state. And we've had traveled there a few times on vacation. And we had just had our daughter, the beginning of 2020. So I looked at Dave and I was like, Florida, like, how is this even going to work? It's during COVID, everything's shut down here. Um, but
but
nothing
COVID,
was.
COVID never hit Florida, right?
No,
I
Nope.
thought
nothing.
Florida and
Nope. It didn't
Texas,
exist.
Florida
COVID
and
didn't
Texas
exist.
were
No,
the two
COVID did not
states,
exist in Florida
which is
at all.
amazing. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think that
But
was
no, that's a
that's
that's
a
that's
huge
that's the reason.
reason.
That's the
Yeah.
reason why.
Yeah,
So, not that I had to go too big into politics, but New York shut down, the rest of the country shut down, Texas and Florida did not. And when you start to look at it, you have a lot of you don't have friendly landlord tenant rules within California and New York. They're another world. And within Florida, you don't have those restrictions down there. You have very favorable landlord laws. And we can give you a few examples of that. But so we started looking in Florida. There was a trooper that was investing in condos down there, and he put us in touch with his realtor and said, "Hey, take a look down there. I make $200 extra a month." And I thought that sounded phenomenal. And I said, $200 on top of my paycheck, just coming from the Air Force, enlisted. I didn't make any money, even though I still
right.
thought I was rich.
I'm like, that's groceries or gas.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, I thought
looking at the
yeah,
basics,
yeah.
right?
I thought I was killing it in the Air Force with 36,000 a year. And so, fast forward $200 extra a month sounds phenomenal. So we started talking to his realtor, and at that time we started listening to podcasts and started really understanding a lot within the real estate space. So the realtor down there, I had it in my mind, let's make 1% off of the purchase price of the home that we're going to find a $100,000 home. Let's at least make $1,000 for rental. Granted, we're looking at a $270,000 house at that time. So I said to the realtor, I said, "Hey, we want to hit that 1% rule." She said, "It's not possible." I said, "Anything's possible." We fired Peggy and we found a new realtor. So Peggy is really nice, but we didn't vibe too well. And then so we found a new realtor, and she introduced us to a sober living program. So this sober living program is what we're invested in Florida. We're 100% invested in Florida, no other states. There are a couple other states I think that are phenomenal, but we're solely in Florida. So when it was first approached to us, I was a little hesitant about everything just because being a New York State Police trooper, I'm making arrests on people that are trafficking narcotics. I'm making arrests on people that get DWIs. So once it was explained to us that these are just normal individuals, they're your blue collar workers, your plumbers, your HVAC techs. One of our homes in Tampa has a radio DJ that's a tenant of ours. And these are just normal people trying to get back on their feet. Then we were a lot more receptive to it. So we started our first house was in Cape Coral, Florida. And then from there, right now we're closing house number 13 right now after about 4 years into getting into real estate.
Sorry, I couldn't come off mute. That's incredible. And if you don't mind, I would love to rewind just
Yeah.
briefly. When you were talking about this mentor, it really it struck me a couple ways. One, did he kind of pursue you and there was some kind of connection, or did you pursue him and from a knowledge perspective, how did that relationship work? And really the point of the question is, I think a lot of us go into this type of stuff as solopreneurs and we have this and Stu and I fight this cultural paradigm all the time. We rail against the idea that and a lot of people would say it's American foundation, and I just think it's complete garbage. But the idea of pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, and if it's going to be, it's up to me, and all this independent thought, it's all. So, I mean, especially in real estate, like it's such a lie. I'm going to make it happen. Well, you need a tenant to pay your bills. So like you need somebody, but I'm just curious. And I want to encourage our listeners this idea of mentorship and how that, if you don't mind talking to me a little bit about that relationship, because it sounds like that was the catalyst that really propelled you guys. And I'm curious if you're still in touch with this individual.
Oh, absolutely. So he and I talk every couple months, and he'll travel. But the summers he'll come up here, and then summers he's back in LA. I think the thing that resonated with him, and I'll go a little bit into his story.
Sure.
So his story, unfortunately, he had a son in Hollywood, and his son was an actor there. He had worked on a couple big films. A couple of them were actually under Steven Spielberg. And so later in life, late 20s, unfortunately, he's not getting acting roles, and he ends up committing suicide. So the mentor, you're devastated. You lose
Your only
your only
child.
child.
Yeah.
And he ends up staying busier than you could ever imagine just to take, I think, his mind off of things. So I think within us and within me, he saw someone that wanted to get into this space, wanted, to change his life and change his family.
We had just had our son too. And so he sees, they've established a relationship at this point. He always looked forward to you working, and they would meet up and chat and catch up on life. And I think after we had Theo, he really said, I have properties. Have you ever thought about real estate? And I think he had storage units.
He has storage
maybe
units
storage
and he had
units. So
apartment complexes all over.
Kind of had like a plethora of different avenues that he was working on. So then Dave would come home to me, and then we would just start talking about real estate and how can we learn more about this. And then, of course, Bigger Pockets came around, and I'm up in the middle of the night nursing our daughter, listening to Bigger Pockets podcast and trying to educate myself in the wee hours of the night. And I think that's kind of how it got started. And we both just became really interested and passionate. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and like, where are we going to go from here? What's going to happen in 2 years, 5 years? And I think that's how it kind of started with
So
Greg.
as a parenting tip, you guys don't recommend baby Beethoven. It's Bigger Pockets, basically.
It's Bigger Pockets.
Play Bigger Pockets, and
That's it.
and I just want to throw it out there. The Kinetic Man podcast also is great for
Yes.
children.
Absolutely. I think one
It'll
thing
put them
too,
to
at least
sleep.
for the
Yeah,
mentorship,
I know.
is that like he instilled didn't feed us everything, didn't say, hey, this is how you close the deal. He didn't spoon feed us everything whatsoever. We had to learn all that ourselves. But I think the biggest thing that's important with the mentorship, you know, and I wish I had this, one thing that really resonates with me, and one reason that we're doing all this is you get out of the military, you get out of state police, you have no direction. And I think there is a huge, Morgan and I were actually talking about this just before we hopped on, that I think there's a huge lack of helping individuals and getting them on a path that they should be on. You know, you do military service for 4 years, 8 years, 20 plus years. What are you going to do after? And no one has an idea. And I think for the mentor that we met, he was able to really get us in that direction in terms of, you know, let's go down this path to be successful.
What I would say that I've noticed that the individuals that have truly been successful and found success, they love to give back, right? They
Mhm.
Yes.
love to help others and teach others,
Yep.
and that's who you really need to tap into. And there's a ton of them, but you have to be open to and be teachable and want to
Right.
learn and show some passion in it yourself, to go and do the stuff that he's saying to do.
Well, now you
Mhm.
guys are, I mean, if you look
Now
at the
you're in that spot.
demographic that you can, right? Like I mean, there's so many cool, stay-at-home moms is you
Yeah.
can, I mean, that you can leverage that and be that mentor for them.
Absolutely.
Police,
Yeah.
law enforcement, former military, minority, like all
Yeah.
all the things, right?
Mhm.
And Stu, you could talk to like the white guys if you want, which is cool too. But I mean, it's
Hey,
such a cool place to also, when you look the other way on how many people that you could continue to serve and help. Just that mission aspect of, a lot of people don't realize how much mission aspect there is in real estate, which goes back to the
Yeah.
question I asked you in the beginning. But I love that you're tying your real estate ventures to a bigger purpose, actually a couple bigger
Yes.
purposes. And this is one also where, man, how many people can you guys serve just through your specific, not only dynamic, but your background and who you guys are and who you appeal to. It's pretty cool.
And I think it's neat, just at least now with law enforcement aspect and being able to understand, at least in a bigger picture, hey, if we can get these people back on the right track, they're going to be productive in society. And unfortunately, not all the landlords that we've run into have that
Oh,
perspective.
yeah.
And some of them are terrible landlords and won't fix the HVAC, won't fix the plumbing within the house because they're just thinking of a money aspect and they don't understand the human aspect of everything.
I mean, they reach out to us all the time, like, "Hey, can you guys take over this house because the landlords are crazy?" I mean, I feel like every couple weeks,
Mhm.
we're being asked to take over other properties, and because the landlords are just atrocious. And that's a big thing when we look at where we're going to buy next and what kind of house we want to buy. And I'm always on the end of, I want to buy a house that these women and children can live in, that's inspirational to them, and it's comfortable and it's safe and it's clean. And, obviously the real estate, right? They're investment properties for us. I mean, there is that side of it, but then the other side of it is we have over 80 tenants that are living across all of our properties, and everything needs to be in working order and comfortable, and for these people so that they can move on. And so yeah, the giving back aspect has been huge. And I think Dave and I have always given back throughout our life. I mean, just being an educator, I was giving back all the time to my kids and families and parents. And this just, I think, opened up a whole nother realm of
Yeah.
giving back even more that you just subconsciously don't even
And
realize.
I think for our kids, obviously our kids are younger, but for them to see, hey, we're sending holiday dinner on Christmas to these homes because these people are not in a great position.
And
Or,
flowers on Mother's
you
Day.
know,
Our women's houses all get flowers on Mother's Day that Dave, we send. And just, we get letters in the mail all the time and cards just
Mhm.
thanking us
And they're
for just
just
these basic things that are just so easy for us to do.
just be a good human
And
and
it's just, it's like a wonderful thing. And I save all of them, and it's yeah, it's great. And our kids love it, and they love to open the mail. And it's just a really like amazing
yeah.
time doing what we're doing.
Yeah, and
Well,
there,
that's
and before your questions, this happened this morning, last night, this morning, and it really made an impression on me. But my youngest, my 8-year-old, said, and there's bigger examples of this, like my son wanting to get a Bible for Christmas because he sees me reading it every morning.
Yep.
But little things. So my son, my youngest, asked me to change all, like, he, any device he uses for whatever, he asked me to change all the times to Navy time.
That's
And I was like, oh, cool, buddy. Why? And because he always sees my watch and all my clocks are they're just in military time.
Yep.
And in his head, it's Navy time. And he was just like, Dad, I want all my clocks to be changed. And where that really, it made an impression on me is, dude, the smallest things and the biggest things, they're watching all of it.
Always.
And so there's an impact in every single thing we do. And if we're not intentional and conscious about that. And so the things that you guys are doing that they're being exposed to, even though they're young, this is probably the time where they're most impressionable.
That's right.
And everything is normalized for them. Receiving letters, giving gifts, that's all normalized in their tiny little bodies and their brains. And that's something that will build. It's crazy.
Yeah,
and I think for me, just, you have, like you said, I think the biggest thing is we can have a successful family. We can have a successful real estate portfolio. The biggest thing is, how do you get your children involved in a positive way? And I think, at least right now, because they are so young and impressionable, is just seeing by action. So we have we send those flowers. They see the flowers that, we order online and we send down to the homes. So for right now, I think that's great. And, we could just give them everything, but I want to have them teach, this is how we do it. This is how we're nice to our tenants. And I think that has just tons of value.
yeah.
Let's get into the actual mission. So this realtor who did think you could get the 1% rule told you about these sober living houses. Let's talk about that and the mission behind that and how you're impacting the lives that are living in your houses.
Yeah, absolutely. So the nonprofit, they're set up all around the country and actually in a couple other countries. And their mission is to take these individuals that are coming out of, a bad situation, whether they're addicted to some type of narcotics or alcohol, and to have them integrated into a house. Now, the house we run, we own the house, but the reason they're successful, and they might have a president, a secretary. So the success of the house is based off of everyone that lives there. They all have a role, and our role is just to take care of the maintenance. But the program started in the 1970s, and it's just been phenomenal. They have an 86% success rate as long as they stay in these homes for about a year to a year and a half, which is unheard of. And these people go back to their normal jobs, their normal everyday living, their families, but it allows them to get back on their feet. Um, that's kind of the structure of the program that we're involved in. And now, the way it works on the larger scale is that you might have 10 homes in Tampa, 10 homes in Jacksonville, you name it. And those houses support each other. So if you unfortunately have a hurricane barreling in on Tampa and our home can't pay rent, then the Jacksonville chapter will kick in rent for our section or for our area. And if for whatever reason that can't happen, the state of Florida steps in at that point. And then if that can't happen for whatever reason, then the federal government steps in. So there's a lot of safety measures in place for what we do, and it's been a phenomenal ride so far. And I think our goals are to continue what we're doing and to continue with the program, and to have the aspect of helping other people. And there's a lot of different real estate sectors out there. Whether you're in Airbnb, syndications, you name it. Really enjoy what we do. I enjoy the single family homes. Every home is different. Every area is different. I'd love to get into other states at some point, but just what we're doing it's been phenomenal. There's nothing bad to say about what we've been doing.
And there have been lots of challenges along the way, and as we've grown, we've had to learn and educate ourselves and, different markets. Florida's a whole different animal in terms of weather and insurances. And I feel like our strong suit is really becoming experts in this one craft. And, we've met lots of different people along our journey that have their hands in 10 different pots. And things can get really dicey for them. And for us, it's really not, well, for me, I shouldn't speak on Dave's behalf, but for me personally, it's slow and steady and enjoying the ride and not accumulating 100 doors at one time, and just really learning as we go along so that we can be those experts and have things just run as smoothly as they need to be for us and for our home life and our work life balance and for our kids, and not to live that chaotic life, but to also be awesome landlords so that our tenants can live peacefully every day, knowing that our houses are as good as they're gonna be.
One thing Morgan always said to me, which I think is a good thing, is she said, "I want to find a home that I would want our two children and our family to live in. As long as it's, you know, nicely landscaped, a nice home, nice neighborhood. I don't want to be a class C or maybe even a B neighborhood. I want to be a neighborhood that everyone is happy to go home to." And that's one compliment we've received from our tenants in terms of, we've never lived in a home like this. And, you know, I want to be somewhere where everyone is happy to go home, do their recovery, and continue on with life. And I think that's a very, very important thing, to treat that home as it'd be somewhere where we want to live.
Right.
And that's not always the case.
Can we talk about the nonprofit a little bit, the program itself?
Yeah.
Like what, I guess one, how are they finding these tenants? How are they qualifying them? And then what are they doing specifically to get these tenants back on their feet? What are they doing while living in the house? Like, are they going out and getting jobs? Are they going through AA? Like, what are they doing from a
Yeah.
mission perspective to help, these individuals kind of get back and going?
Dude, can I
Yeah,
just say
absolutely.
it's adorable that that's the question that I had been writing down. I just want to just highlight that that's adorable that I wanted to
Great.
dive into that
Minds
program.
think alike.
You're so cute.
Yeah,
I
this is so
love my
cute.
work wife.
Real big, I'll start and then I'll let you kind of take over. But, there are thousands and thousands and thousands all over the country of sobriety houses. And obviously, we didn't know that this was the niche we were going to fall into. So we've learned along the way all of the different procedures in New York State. Some of them are referred to as halfway houses. I don't like that name. I just don't, I think there's better names out there. But these people in Florida, I think Florida as a state does a great job with their programs, because these individuals have to want to get help. They have to want to go there with their life and find from deep within, to get sober in whatever capacity that is. They pay their way through recovery. I don't know too much about the sobriety in New York where we currently live, but I know that that's not always the case. They're usually mandated by the government or some other sector in which they've gotten in trouble, community service or whatever have you. But these people have to pay their way through rehab. So it's their own personal money they're funding to get themselves help. I mean, if you can't help yourself, what do you really have? So I think starting there is wonderful. And when we dove down that rabbit hole, that was really interesting. And I think that obviously is what makes it so successful there. But yeah, they go through these programs and
Yeah, that's really well said.
thanks.
So no, and she's right. And I think that's the reason why they're successful. So the program, they'll find people that are completing, AA or whatever other type of narcotics recovery program. So even to back up a little more, just to understand where it comes from. So the founder of the program, he went through AA himself. He worked on Wall Street. Unfortunately, he was an abusive husband, and he found after going through recovery himself in the AA home that there was nothing else after. He felt like he needed more. So that's where it started. And like Morgan said, that they have that role in the house, that they take individuals that are maybe recently arrested or that are in recovery programs. They'll take them within their homes, and every Sunday they have a house meeting, and they'll talk about their stories. They'll talk about methods to be successful and to recover. Now, one thing I think that sets them apart from a lot of other programs is that they have to pay their way into that house. So it's not a state sponsored, they don't get a check from the state of Florida to be in that house. So you have to really want to be there if you're going to give up your own personal paycheck. Now they all have normal 9 to 5 jobs. They have to find them themselves. The state of Florida might help a little bit, but not much. They're, like I said, they're your
Just for
normal.
clarity, they have to find the home or they have to find the job.
They have to find the job.
Okay, gotcha.
So
gotcha.
their own job. So, you know, if they're a plumber, they have to seek out that plumbing company to work at. So they don't get a handout. And I think that's one thing that sets them apart. You know, there's so many handouts in our world nowadays, and I'm not a big fan of it. But by them having that drive to find their own job and to pursue a life of sobriety and never to go back to that, that's what sets them apart.
Yeah, and there's individual people within the nonprofit organization that say, you know, if just for example, the sobriety center in, let's say, Tampa has 5 residents that are graduating from the program, and we need to house them. Okay, so we need to find a house. So they'll contact us and say, hey, we've got a women's house coming out of Tampa. We need to house 9 women, and there might be 5 children that are going to be coming along with those women. So that's how we go through the process of acquiring the real estate, buying the house, and, you know, we can close on properties fairly quickly. I mean, we've had 30-day closes.
Yeah.
So one thing the program has too, Florida just regionally is split into 5 different regions. So the nonprofit will have 5 regional directors. So Tampa sobriety program reaches out to region 1 director, says, hey, we have X amount of people coming out. Can you provide them housing?
Yeah.
Simple as that. Now, because there's so many people that need these types of homes, they keep expanding every single year. They might have 50 homes that they need for 2025. 2026, they might be slated to have 80 homes. So they'll reach out to investors and say, hey, can you purchase a home? Because we have that growing need for homes for people going through recovery. So that's where we step in, we purchase those homes, and it allows the program to expand even further. So they've been in other states for 20 plus years, but Florida, they just started a couple of years ago, 3.5, 4 years ago.
A lot of opportunity. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, awesome. Not awesome that there's so much opportunity
No.
because of the nature of what's happening, but that's
Right.
reality, right? I mean, it's just
It's
realistic
reality. I
that
mean,
this is going to
yeah.
be a. I'm just curious, what is the average stay? What is the average stay of the tenant? And then what I'm hearing you say is the way that you guys manage turnover is that the demand is so high that it's not particularly a huge issue. And
Not at
also,
all.
sorry, just as I thought, are these furnished? Are you guys furnishing and they're just moving into a fully rented, or are they bringing stuff and things?
Yeah, so to back up, so the furnishing, we don't deal with any of that. They furnish the homes themselves, which is phenomenal. So we don't have to even.
There have been situations where we've maybe bought the house and the owners are going to be like, okay, is it okay if I leave like the dining room set? And we're like, leave whatever you want to leave it all behind. And then our houses will come in. They might go to like some warehouses to get bedding, but they provide all of those resources for the people moving in. Sometimes the tenants bring their own personal belongings if they have them. But they have free reign to decorate or do whatever they want. And I want to say our Cape Coral house, we have tenants there that are still there from the very beginning.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think a lot of them are there for a year plus. Some of them are there for 2 or 3 years. And, you know,
So it's not like it's
unfortunately,
not necessarily high. I mean, those numbers are not necessarily higher than standard, like what Stu and I experience in our rental portfolio.
no, not at all.
No.
And I mean, if they do have turnover, it's nothing that affects us or that we even know of.
Yeah, I mean, they're very strict. They want to keep those houses filled, and obviously people sober and on the right track because they've worked so hard to get to where they are into one of our houses. I mean, we have had a couple situations where tenants have had to evacuate and leave because they've ultimately succumbed to whatever their situation was, and that's that's a sad day for us, a sad day for them, but the turnover, they will always have somebody to fill that spot, fill that need.
And those regional managers will end up sourcing those people.
Yeah.
And so it's nothing that we have to do.
They have all the checks and balances on their end.
We're very hands off of the home, aside from just those major fixes that need to be done. HVAC, plumbing, whatever have you. But
yeah, I mean,
we're very hands off.
Yeah, it's busy. It's busy for the listeners. Like it's a very busy, your phones goes off quite a bit. And it's just Dave and I that do it. We don't have anybody else.
Yeah, my phone's attached to my hip, but it's nothing terrible though.
Yeah.
It's nothing that I would say anyone couldn't do, but you need to have systems in place to be able to handle that. And that's one thing that we've developed throughout the years.
Yeah, now I'm just my real estate brain is going a little crazy.
Shoot away, ask us everything.
Are you typically renovating these houses, or are you buying them, relative close to turnkey?
So all the homes generally will shoot for 4 or 5 bedrooms and 2 to 3 baths. So they're well over 2,000 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
The bigger, the better for the most part.
Which can be challenging actually to find. I mean, it can be really difficult to find properties that work and that fit.
And we'll convert, your second dining room or an office into another bedroom. We will do renovations to the house. Nothing, too mind blowing, but we will add extra bedrooms.
Yeah, put some walls up. Sometimes it takes a couple weeks.
So right now our, number 12 house, we're adding 2 extra bedrooms to that house. Nothing terrible, and we'll convert 2 extra bedrooms that allow for extra tenants to come in.
Mm-hmm.
They're not your homes that have 12 people living in a home. You might have 6 to 8 people, which is more manageable.
Yeah.
But it's not like a slumlord house where you have 12, 13, 14 people. It's manageable. And that's, like I said, that's one of the reasons they're successful. They make smaller homes, but they're very successful.
Are you guys getting, I guess, good news stories? Are you, following the path of your tenants to kind of understand, where they came from, and then, how they're doing and how they're, turning their life around and kind of making a positive impact?
I wish we did have more follow-up with them, but the nature of the program is that they do have a lot of privacy.
Yeah, there's like HIPAA. I wouldn't say it's terrible. I mean, we do hear from some of our regional guys and gals that we talk to, and there's main communication. But we'll check in and say, hey, how are the kids at this property? How are they doing? Are they settling in? There was an instance, I think last year, maybe Dave and I were gonna put a play set in. Like we wanted like a play set for the kids at the house. And sometimes when it comes down to insurance, you're not allowed to do those things. So these are like in my mom heart, I'd like to do that, but it is a business and there are some precautions that we have to take to protect ourselves.
There's certain things like they've asked, can we have a trampoline? No, the
and
insurance will get on me about trampoline. But they say, can we install a play set? And I said, yeah, of course. And I said, why would you even ask me? And they said, you're the landlord. And I said, you don't have to ask me for a child's play set. And, some things go ahead and do. If it's going to make everyone happy, and especially kids, just do it. Do it to make your lives better.
Yeah, we had we've had letters sent to us and everybody in the house signs it, and there'll be like little like caveat stories in the letter, like, thank you so much. Your property has kept me sober for X amount of years. And thank you so much for sending dinner. We really like for holidays, like Dave mentioned before, we like to send dinner and just to give back a little bit, nothing major. And we did have a tenant pass away while we were on vacation, was it last week?
Yeah.
So that's really hard. And I know it's hard for the house. And so, yeah, I mean, real life, real people, real situations.
I think it's phenomenal. Like Morgan just mentioned, we had a tenant. He was in one of our Orlando houses. So he's been in our house since we opened 3.5 years ago. He's been in the house for 3.5 years. I've never gone through sobriety, but I'm sure was pretty sober at that point. But he just found that the house was family to him. And he had, unfortunately, stage 4 cancer and passed away. He and I talked a couple of days before he passed away, and we had talked regularly via text or phone call every couple of weeks. That's a very rarity for me to talk to someone that often. But just a nice individual. He really took care of the home, appreciated everything we did. And, you know, you do have those stories of helping someone to that extent.
I love it. It's really cool to hear, a story of just, using an investment property, using something that is helping you guys create your own financial freedom, but at the same time has a mission that is above and beyond with a bigger purpose, that is helping the world. And it's a really cool story. I really appreciate you guys, what you're doing, and spreading, this word about this opportunity. I'm actually, like David said, like my brain is stirring,
Mhm.
thinking of all kinds of things that we can do. So, um, I want to keep, on schedule for you guys. I know
Yeah,
you got
yeah, yeah.
busy lives and kiddos to attend to. How do we get more information to our listeners? Where do they find out more about you, reach out to you, and what can we like finish our audience with?
Yeah.
Our website?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, stanhopecapital.com
Yep.
is our
So
website.
we created a website, and that has all of our information, all of our social media handles, and that's the best way to get in touch with us.
Mhm.
And you know, we'd love to share a story, and we have had people, which is nice. We've had people reach out, and one person in Florida, he by whim reached out via email, said, would you be open to mentorship? And I said, let me think about it. And then it was a great story. You know, he played college basketball. He has a wife. He has a newborn child. And he said, you know, we have our 9 to 5, but he said, you know, it's a very relatable story that Morgan and I have. You know, when we started all this and Morgan's, you know, listening to Rich Dad Poor Dad book and in the middle of the night breastfeeding at 2 a.m. And it's a very relatable thing for mothers or for, you know, for both people to understand the story.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I was actually just having coffee with a buddy of mine who's a police officer here in Colorado. He's been in it 15 years and night shift and getting
Mhm.
shot
Yeah.
at, and he just had
Mhm.
his
Yeah.
third kid, and he's like, I need to find something else.
Mhm.
So we're trying to get him into real estate and doing some mentorship stuff like that too.
Yeah.
So good stuff, guys. I really appreciate you coming on. David, do you have anything else smart and funny to say?
No, man.
Oh,
I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. And what an amazing mission, and what an incredible story. And again, I think I'm most excited for you guys as you move forward and you're accomplishing all your goals, and all that's amazing. But the impact you're making on your children, the impact you're making on those, I mean, people reaching out for mentorship, and there's a generation coming up too that you have with a unique story, but also very relatable. Just
Yes.
a platform to really make a big impact and drive. You know, we go to these redemptive real estate meetings, and when you look at how can we use real estate to, from Stu and my perspective, how do you use it to glorify God? How do you use it to express your faith? How do you use something that is so ubiquitous to do something that's so precious and so long lasting? And so I appreciate you guys and what you're doing. It's awesome.
absolutely.
It's incredible stuff.
Absolutely.
Awesome. And
Thank you.
we'd be willing to do a part 2, part 3. We have a lot more, so
That sounds good.
we'll make
Yeah,
it.
I love
Yeah.
it.
we'll put your contact information, your website in the show notes. Guys and gals, reach out to David and Morgan Stanhope, and have a great day. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
Thank
so
you guys.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks.